I grew up in a camping family, and as such, the Great Lakes are integral parts of my childhood. Having by now visited 4 out of the 5 Great Lakes, I've come to love the plants, the animals, and the natural wonders that the Great Lakes have had to offer me, as they have offered countless Michiganders and Americans. But historically, the Great Lakes have had far more to offer us than simply their beauty. Historically, they acted as staples for trade, offering early Native Americans fertile agricultural land to develop wild rice and sugarcane. They later functioned importantly in the fur trade of the 1600s, which continued for about 200 years and attracted countless settlers to Michigan to allow Michigan to flourish into what it has become today. Beyond the economy, the Great Lakes have also had important military functions throughout their history. Naval operations began on Lake Michigan in 1923 and continued until 1942, as the Navy built hangars, airfields, and landing strips. By World War II, when they needed a convenient place to train takeoff and landing on aircraft carriers, Lake Michigan proved the best option because there was a pre-established naval presence there. Today, 120 World War II-era aircraft lie at the bottom of Lake Michigan, whose cold, fresh waters provided the ideal environment for near-perfect preservation, to the point where many of these aircraft can still be identified by their initial paint jobs, which is why the Naval History and Heritage Command is attempting to find and preserve these invaluable bits of Michigan's history. The sulaks connecting Lake Superior and Lake Huron also functioned importantly during World War II, shipping over 90% of the nation's iron ore, amounting to over 300 million tons of it between 1941 and 1943. The Great Lakes as a whole also represent 1/5 of the world's freshwater surface supply and 9/10 of the U.S.'s supply. Together, they provide the backbone for a $6 trillion regional economy, especially for Michigan. And for centuries, they have also been home to over 3,500 different plant and animal species, many of whom are completely unique to the Great Lakes and can't be found anywhere else on Earth. But despite the backbone they have historically provided our economy, the drinking water they have continuously generated for us, and the homes they have provided for countless organisms for centuries, we are currently jeopardizing our Great Lakes. 80% of the U.S. Great Lakes shoreline is held privately and has been for decades, being held inaccessibly to the public, compared to 20% of Canada's Great Lakes shoreline being held in private hands. Not only does this restrict the beauty and natural wonder of the Great Lakes from the public who deserves it, it also actively harms the lakes themselves. Many different flood prevention methods, such as seawalls or revetments, which are essentially slanted seawalls, are put in private sectors to protect against erosion and flooding, but what they actually do is take sediment and push it farther down the beach, moving sediment, destroying ecosystems, and essentially moving erosion down the beaches and away from the private sectors. This can destroy ecosystems and can even prevent inland migration for many different plants and animals who have had to seasonally move inland for centuries. This causes the loss of nursery and foraging grounds for countless species of birds and fish who need to move closer to or onto the shore. And if habitat destruction wasn't enough, persistent pollution will not only affect ecosystems, but eventually our drinking water. For decades, toxic pollutants from industrial and agricultural waste, raw sewage overflows, runoff from cities, and mining operations have polluted our Great Lakes, and these excess chemicals can throw entire ecosystems out of balance and can remain there for decades, meaning that they will have lasting effects beyond the initial pollution. One of the largest pollution sources we see is phosphorus runoff from farmland, which is a nutrient that can feed cyanobacteria, which causes harmful algal blooms that can prove toxic not only to animals, but to humans as well. When 80% of our shoreline is held privately and has been for decades, whether that be by private owners or businesses, this provides dangerous implications for the futures of our Great Lakes. We saw Lake Erie disastrously polluted in the 1960s by industrial ownership, and Lake Erie still struggles with pollution today, to the point where there are still harmful algal blooms and decreasing fish populations. By not making a change, we are essentially making history repeat itself and endangering the rest of our Great Lakes similarly. We decide here and now how we treat the lakes that gave us our history, our economy, and our homes. Without further restrictions on what private owners are allowed to do to our lakes, or without opening up our lakes to more of the public to protect them, we are going to lose our lakes and the countless organisms they give life to, including us. We have to protect our Great Lakes for the future generations, so that they can enjoy the resources, the booming economy, the beauty, and the wildlife that gave the Great Lakes their name and reputation, and that they gave us for centuries. But it has to start now. Thank you.